All right, we are good. The recording has started. And now I'm gonna go let you know that we're gonna go live. God, I hope I don't fuck this up. All right, you ready? One, two, three, two. Let's give this a shot. We are slowly getting there. Bum, bum, ba, da, ba, 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 da, ba, ba. I think, I think we're live, everybody. Oh, and for those of you who don't know, we are also recording because your intrepid reporter and researcher has found out that you're supposed to push the record button when you do these because it doesn't do it automatically. So I have lessons have been learned. New information has been given. Probably old information, but I don't pay attention sometimes. So, but there is that. But welcome to Something Wicked, and I am your intrepid host, Xanarus. Some of you may know me as Daniel, others may know me as Trouble or Papa Bear within the Discord server. And I'm here with and I'm here with one of my fellow researchers and compatriots, Jackaboyo. Jackaboyo, say hi.
Hi.
So, last time that we attempted this, we were having some severe technical difficulties. Uh, but it does seem that we are working now. I hope. I
Yes. I
don't.
there is some loading screens, but it's working a lot better.
Okay, so is everything looking like if it's running?
Yeah.
God, I hope so because I'm just.
It's like a few like 5 seconds behind on us, but it is still running.
You know, the fact that it's just 5 seconds, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
I will take 5 seconds behind. But the fact that it's actually running makes me very, very happy. So, for those of you who don't know, we represent a collective of creators called Frankly I Don't Give a Fork. And Frankly I Don't Give a Fork, we do a little bit of everything. There's games, there's RPGs, there's map making, and then there's this weirdness here where we talk about the horrific things, the wicked people, the wicked events, the things that make your skin crawl, the things that make you question if the government truly is there to protect or to go and make you into a mind control slave. And with that, we actually will be talking about something similar to that today. MK Ultra, take two, because we attempted this not too long ago and it got a little bit spotty. But with that being said, we have a few things that I would like to go and mention. So here in Franklin Don't Give a Fork, we are also having other things to go and watch. We have our D&D games on Monday. We have our map making on Thursdays. We have other creators on Wednesdays. We have our sister channels that are here on Sunday. We want you guys to be able to jump on in to go and watch and enjoy and to just take a second, look through our Instagram, look through our Twitter, and we are finally truly building some real meat and potatoes into our Patreon, which is looking really, really great. The guys have been working really, really hard on it, and we will be part of that. For I do have some news. Reading with me is coming back. A sip of Xanaris is going to be returning where I will be reading copyright free material. The very first thing that I was able to go and find that is completely legal for me to be able to read on Twitch is Shakespeare's Othello. And I'm very,
Oh,
very excited for that. So,
yes.
yeah,
That was really good.
and I found a really good copy. But one thing that I want to share with all of you, if you would like to be part of a table reading and something that is kind of like this, that we would be able to sit down and go and pick some folks to go and read with me. There's going to be happening. So we're going to go and get that planned out, and we're going to go and let people have the opportunity to be able to go and read Othello here on Frankly I Don't Give a Fork. Just thought I'd go and share that with you. Othello truly is one of my favorite stories, and it is because of the dastardly villain Iago. For those of you who don't know who Iago is, he has a monologue which is famous, truly, truly famous for Am I the Villain? And it is truly one of those things that I would do it for you here, but I wouldn't do it justice because I don't remember it completely. But it will come to that because I'm so excited to be able to go and play him because I think Iago is one of my favorite things in the world. And also, where they got the name for the parrot in Aladdin, if you guys didn't know. Just sharing that little bit of, just sharing a little
Yes.
tidbit of information. But welcome to Frankly, I Don't Give a Fuck. And before we start, everyone, take a moment, breathe in, enjoy this beautiful sunny day, enjoy the new art that I have moved around into my home. I've also acquired some more, which maybe one day we'll show you. But, and by the way, all of this is thrifted, except for the picture in the middle, which was made for me by my goddaughter. And I have framed it up there as a reminder of the people that give me art. I think art is something that we all need. So I want to share a little bit of art with you today. And with that being said, let us go and get something warm to drink, perhaps a cup of coffee, maybe some tea. I also managed to find pumpkin pie. I love your cup. That is a fabulous cup. Is that Charlie Chaplin? Yes, it is.
Yes.
Wonderful.
My sister thought it was Sherlock when she gave it to me. So she was like, "I know you love Sherlock, so here."
That
So
makes it even better. I
yeah.
love it. Oh, that's
So
such a
so
good
when
gift.
so when she's around, I always we always call it my Sherlock cup, but it's
Sherlock is a massive disguise. You know what? He could totally be dressed up as Charlie Chaplin. Why not? Oh, that's such a sweet gift. I'm so glad that she did that for you. I love the little hat that comes with it and everything. But
yeah. It keeps the tea warm.
oh,
So it's
oh, mm,
yeah.
that's just ingenious. I love everything about that. So, without further ado, let us now go and prick our thumbs for something wicked this way comes. So, we spoke about this for 12 minutes before our connection exploded. But today, it seems that we seem to be working on full throttle. So, with that being said, I would like to talk to all of you today about the government's secret program, the actual real secret program for government funded mind control. I, just let it wrap around your mind for a moment because at first I thought it was a joke too, and it's not. So, with that being said, MK Ultra. Jacoboy, do you know what the hell MK Ultra is?
Uh, yeah, I know about like it being mind control. I know a lot of adjacent conspiracy theories as well. Um, some of the conspiracy theories are complete bullshit, and
Of course.
some of them are actually true. It's really fun to read up on the conspiracy theory part of things. Um, I love conspiracy theories, so I'm
We
yeah.
really have fallen down the rabbit hole with some of the things that we talk about here, don't we? So,
Yeah.
and when we talk about conspiracy theories, the frightening thing that this was one that was real.
Yeah.
So, when we first did this one, I mentioned something before, but I want to mention it again because it's so terrifying. What does Manson, the Unabomber, and Whitey Bulger, the crime syndicate boss, all have in common? They are all believed to be subjects of MK Ultra. Now, with Manson and with Whitey Bulger, but believe it or not, with the Unabomber, there is actually a little monochrome of truth in that. And that's a little scary. But we'll
Yeah.
get to that. So, MK Ultra. My first thing when I started doing research was, what the hell does the MK stand for? I
Yeah.
couldn't find it, and I kept on looking and looking and looking, and I told myself, I was like, there's got to be something out there. There has to be something out there that explains it. And I don't have the link here right now, but I actually did copy it because I needed to share it with other people. So MK is a intentionally oblique CIA cryptonym, which is made of the digraph MK, meaning that the project was sponsored by the agency's technical service staff, followed by the word ultra, which has previously been used to designate the most secret classification of World War II intelligence. So now we know what MK Ultra is. MK, funded by the technical services staff, and then Ultra, a project funded of the most highest of confidentialities. But to talk about Project MK Ultra, let's learn a little bit about it. Let's go and see where it came from. So, Project MK Ultra was a code name of an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the US Central Intelligence Agency. The experiments were intended to develop procedures and identify drugs such as LSD that could be used to interrogate and weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture. Not just that, but MK Ultra was also designated to be able to use methods to manipulate subjects' mental states and brain functions to be able to have them use as potential covert agents to manipulate them to do things against their moral code, to have someone who would never think of hurting someone be capable of committing an act of horrific violence in the name of God and country. So, to get a little bit into that, not only were they using electroshock therapy, they were using sensory deprivation, hypnosis, torture, verbal sexual abuse, and lots of LSD.
Yeah.
To the point that the American government actually attempted to buy the complete stock of LSD in the world itself before the Russians or the Chinese could. How does it get to this? Where does this even start? Who sat down and said, "Eh, we got to make mind control, or we got to go and get people to go and do things"? That's my Alex Jones impression for everybody. But but where does it start? And one word for you: synopsis and Operation Paperclip. You see, there are things that we're going to go and talk about today because I want to go and give you some context of where the hell does this come from? Who makes this decision? Well, as a precursor to the MK Ultra program, in 1945, the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency was established and given direct responsibility over Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip? Well, the United States government understood that Russia was going to become a superpower. Communism was on the rise. And those wily Nazis, the ones that were still alive, their scientists, and all those people that acquired all that knowledge doing very unethical things, were very much out and about. So we have to get them first. Not only that, it helped us to get to the moon before everybody else, too. For those of you who don't know, NASA was able to go and use the knowledge acquired from the Nazis that created the V2 rocket. But that is a whole other episode of Something Wicked that we can go into. And Jacob Boy, your face did a thing. You look like you have strong emotions about this subject.
I just know that like my people and I personally both as uh both my Dutch part of the family and my Indonesian part of the family have a lot to say about Project Paperclip because both parts were under brutal occupation of people who were saved by Project Paperclip. So
That's
a
yeah.
lot of people from Europe also are still angry at the US government for good reason, and mostly it's because of Project Paperclip. Because there were literally people who were almost getting brought to justice who were
Who just disappeared from the face
say
of the earth.
yeah, and then we knew that well they didn't really disappear. We all knew that they were going to the US
They were
and being
recruited
safe there. Yeah.
for something a little bit different. So, with that being said, the program recruited former Nazi scientists, some of whom well, were known for brainwashing and torture, and several who have been identified and prosecuted as war criminals during the Nuremberg trials. Something that we will go and talk about in depth at a later episode. I would like to go into detail with that because there's some real wild little events on that one. But
Oh yeah.
and if anyone is in the chat, if you want to go and let us know that if we're looking good and if everything's going clear, please feel free to do so. So it just wasn't paperclip though. See, paperclip was the beginning. Several secret U.S. government projects grew out of paperclip. These projects included Project Chatter, established 1947, Project Bluebird, established 1950, which was renamed Project Artichoke in 1951. These two creatures, Project Bluebird and Project Artichoke, would become the forefathers of Project MKUltra. Their purpose: to study interrogation, behavior modification, and methods of creating a clear cut mind to use for whatever purposes the government may need them for. Let's talk about Bluebird. So, Bluebird is code name for the CIA mind control program. And I never thought I would say that with distinction and with actual oomph behind me, but this is a real thing. The CIA mind control program lasting from 1951 to 1953, run by the Office of Scientific Intelligence. The CIA authorized experiments to be conducted by licensed psychiatrists. These experiments had various purposes, but not limited to creating new identities, inducing amnesia, inserting hypnotic access codes into subjects' minds, a la Manchurian candidate, creating multiple personalities, and creating false memories. The research also included placing brain electrodes into people and controlling the behavior from remote transmitters, administering daily dosages of LSD 25 to children for extended periods of time, and using electroconvulsive therapy to erase memories. Bluebird was established for a few things. They believed that they could go and wipe the mind to go and create a new personality, a new a new identity that could be shaped to what they needed for their purposes. Extremely unethical, mind you, but that is just part of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Bluebird would give birth to Artichoke. Artichoke, made by the Central Intelligence Agency, was interrogation methods, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Preceded by preceded by Project Bluebird, Artichoke officially arose on August 20th, 1951, and operated by the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence. Artichoke was to determine if a person could involuntarily be made to perform an act of attempted assassination. The project would study hypnosis, hypnosis, forced morphine addiction, and subsequent withdrawal, and the use of other chemicals, including LSD, to produce amnesia and other vulnerable states in subjects. They're quoted in saying, and in the actual documents that have been declassified, can we get control of an individual to the point where he will do our bidding against his will and even against fundamental laws of nature, such as self preservation? Hold on to your hats, everybody, because it just gets worse as we continue through. With that being said, this hydra of a creature, Project Paperclip, Project Artichoke, Bluebird, finally forms into MK Ultra. So, what the hell possesses a group of scientists to sit down and say, we really got to we got to take care of this mind control thing. This is going to be a thing that's happening. This is like this is scary. Like people are really doing this. Well, because they heard rumors, lots and lots of rumors. Supposedly, in 1953, it was stated that the Soviet, Chinese, and North Koreans were using mind control techniques on U.S. prisoners of wars in Korea. They stated that POVs that were heading over to that area were coming back believing in communism. And how could you possibly believe in communism when democracy is so great? It has to be mind control, right?
These people just learned it. And yeah, well,
One of the one of the most funniest things about that. Hmm, I was doing some research, and forgive me that I don't have his name here, but an African American gentleman that was fighting during this time was a POV in Korea, and when he had escaped, he stated it was the first time that he had been treated like a person and called by his first name. Something to think about as we continue into this little bit of research.
yeah.
It doesn't get better, everybody. Just just to go and let you know. But
But of course, he would want to stay somewhere where he's like treated as a human being.
treated as a human being and not treated as if though he was just some non-desirable person because of his color of skin.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point. And please don't for one second go and think that we're a bunch of tankies here because fuck those guys because they were absolute monsters over in that area too.
Yeah.
Let's not go and try to justify any of that nonsense because
No.
the because fact is fact. But that's a whole other episode for a whole other time. So
Oh yeah.
MK Ultra, headed by Sidney Gottlieb. The MK Ultra project was started on the order of CIA Director Alan Welsh Dulles on April 13th, 1953. Whole purpose of this thing. The CIA wanted to use similar methods on their POWs. They were interested in being able to manipulate foreign leaders and would later invent several schemes to try to drug Fidel Castro to see if Fidel Castro could be used as part of MK Ultra. They were often conducted without the subject's knowledge or consent. In some cases, academic research is being funded through grants from the CIA. Front organizations were unaware that their work were being used for this purpose, which is one of the scary things that we talk about because that is what believed happened with the Unabomber. Supposedly, his professor he underwent severe beatdown psychologically from a set of experiments that were being done to him while he was, I believe, in Harvard. It's either Harvard or Yale, and people do believe that he may have been part of this psychological breakdown to go and have someone become an agent of chaos. I, it's a whole thing. There's so much to the Unabomber that I would do the case injustice, not go into real detail. But I just want to go and share the little nugget of information with all of you. So, beginning in 1953 and ending in 1973, was organized through the CIA's Office of Scientific Intelligence and coordinated with the United States Army Biological Warfare Laboratories. The program, illegal in almost every way, included the use of US and Canadian citizens as unwitting test subjects, which, mind you, the majority of MK Ultra experiments were not done on American soil. They were done in Canada, for those of you who don't know. Yeah, let that roll around your head for a little bit too. So, MK's Ultra's scope was broad, with activities carried out under the guise of research at more than 80 institutions, including colleges, universities, hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated using front organizations. Although some top officials of these institutions were unaware of the CIA's involvement, there were definitely some that knew. Now, why am I not naming names? Well, you see, this project does not have a happy ending. When things went sour, they made sure to cover tracks. The majority of documents have been destroyed, meaning what we do know is what has been declassified, and what has been declassified is not much at all. But to that point, with these 80 institutions, right? 44 colleges and universities, as well as hospitals and prisons and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated through front organizations, and later on, the institutions, although it is noted that by the Supreme Court later on, that it's mentioned because this went all the way to the Supreme Court afterwards when this hit. That at the Supreme Court later noted, MK Ultra was concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. The program consisted of some 149 sub-projects, which the agency contracted out to various universities, research foundations, and similar institutions. At least 80 and 185 private researchers participated. Because the agency funded MK Ultra indirectly, many of the participating individuals were unaware that they were dealing with the agency. How does that work? Well, because I know everybody's thinking, how the hell didn't they know they're working for the government? Well, it's simple, really. And I'll help. So, let's say you, John Public, just so happen to be a psychiatrist at a very, very famous institution. You receive an email from one of your board of directors stating there is a new drug that we've been asked to go and start human research on. We've been told it's been funded and cleared. We would like you to go and start a study program with this. Why would you question your board?
Yeah.
Because I know that there's going to be a lot of people that, while they're listening to this, they're thinking to themselves, there's no way. There's no way.
Yeah.
Mm, yeah. It's um, as the process is called, cloak and dagger. It's all cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
Now, the bad thing is there are some
There.
people that did know.
Yeah, but there were also people who did question it, and there were problems there too.
Problems like what? Do you mean like one of the CIA agents that just so managed to fall outside of a window and just
Exactly.
die? Oh, that
Yeah.
happens sometimes when you go and you question clandestine operations. But you also notice the Russians are very famous on having people just fall out of windows as well. But that's a whole other topic that we can go and get into at another time. So in 1955, documents were able to be found stating the indication and the size and range of the effect of MK Ultra. So the document refers to the study as an assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. This is a list of 17 things. Now check this one out because if you guys ever wondered what a supervillain shopping list sounds like, here we go. So let me light this real quick. Mm. Have a drink of coffee if you can. Good God. So, one, substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. Two, substances which increase the efficiency of mentization and perception. Three, materials which will cause the victim to age faster and slower in maturity, meaning they would age quickly, but not age mentally. Four, materials which will prompt the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Five, materials which will produce the signs and symptoms of recognized diseases in a reversible way, so they may be used for malingering, etc. Six, materials which will cause temporary, permanent brain damage and loss of memory. Seven, substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privatization, torture, and coercion during interrogation or so-called brainwashing. Eight, materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use. 9. Physical methods of producing shock and confusion over extended periods of time and capable of surreptitious use. Ooh, that was a English is hard. 10. Substances which produce physical dis oh, that's a substances that which produce physical disablement such as paralysis of the legs, acute anemia. 11. Substances which will produce a chemical that can cause blisters. 12. Substances which alter personality structure in a way that with the tendency of the recipient to become dependent upon another person is enhanced. 13. A material which will cause mental confusion of such a type that the individual under its influence will find it difficult to maintain a fabrication under questioning, meaning they couldn't lie. A truth serum, if you will. 14. Substances which will lower the ambition and general working efficiency of men when administered in undetectable amounts, as in slowly but surely making sure that you could not get the job done. 15. Substances which promote weakness or distortion of the eyesight or hearing faculties, preferably without permanent effects. 16. A knockout pill to be administered in drinks, foods, cigarettes, as an aerosol, etc., which will be safe to use, provide a maximum amount of amnesia, and be suitable for use by agent types on an ad hoc basis. And 17. A material that could be administered by the above routes and which is very small amounts, make it impossible for a person to perform physical activities. So, if you ever wonder what Cobra Commander did in his free time, and as he sat down with all of his crew and said, I need this list, that's pretty much what MK Ultra was. They sat down and they decided to go and find some of the scariest stuff that they possibly could, and that's what they were looking for. So, once MK Ultra officially went underway in April 1953, experiments including administering LSD to mental patients, prisoners, and drug addicts, and prostitutes, or as they put it in the documents, people who could not fight back, as one
Yeah.
agency officer put it. In one case, LSD was administered to a mental patient in Kentucky for 174 days. LSD was also administered to CIA employees, military personnel, doctors, and other government agencies, forgive me, other government agents, and members of the general public in order to study their reactions. LSD and other drugs were usually administered without the subject's knowledge or informed consent, a violation of the Nuremberg Code that the US agreed to follow after World War II. The aim of this was to find drugs that would irre- irresistibly bring out deep confessions or wipe a subject's mind clean and program him or her as a robot agent. So here's a little bit of knowledge to this. And this is where MK Ultra started to find its issues. How do you control a mind? What goes from manipulating a thought to brain control, to mind control? It's a funny place. So the human the human psyche, your environment, your history, your surroundings, your the people you've met, the things that you've done help create who you are as a person. So how do we make that go away to install something else? Well, you really don't. You see, the problem that they were reaching was even with the LSD, people were still people. We could destroy memories, but we would relatively wind up destroying the brain. So, in essence, what they found out was by destroying so many lives, you had to either wipe out the personality completely and then rebuild it, or completely cause damage to just have them be in the in between of who they were and what you want them to be. Both things extremely unpredictable, extremely difficult to quantify. The project was doomed to fail. But that's not that they didn't try. Or with that be
Unfortunate.
unfortunately,
Unfortunately.
because
Yeah.
you see things got a little bit weirder. You see, because MK Ultra also created something called Operation Midnight Climax. You want to take a guess at what Operation Midnight Climax was at all? Just
No, you can take that one. I'm I know it, but you can do it.
You know what? I'm gonna leave that one to you, Danny. He's like, oh, okay. Just like, so you're sure? Yeah, no, 100%. I don't want to talk. It literally sounds like a really bad detective movie. Operation Midnight Climax. It's just like, oh my
it
god.
it's kind of sounds like porn.
It. Yeah, get ready for it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so the ass clowns that went and named this one, they established the CIA would create several brothels in San Francisco, California, to obtain a selection of men who would be too embarrassed to talk about the events. You see, it
Yeah.
was illegal to go and buy, to have any type of contact with a sex worker. So if something went wrong, you can't go to the police because you already committed a crime. So the men were dosed with LSD. The brothels were equipped with one-way mirrors, and the sessions were filmed for later viewing and study. In other experiments, people were given LSD without their knowledge. They were interrogated under bright lights, with doctors in the background taking notes. The subjects were told that their trips would be extended indefinitely if they refused to reveal their secrets. The people being interrogated this way were CIA employees, US military personnel, and agents suspected of working for the other side in the Cold War, and random Johns that they acquired from the street.
Um, I do know that a fun, well, not really fun, facts about this is that a lot of these people later went and would like go to the police to tell that they were abducted by aliens because because they could only remember like
Bright
being
lights
abducted, bright
and
lights,
just
people,
wild trip.
these,
Yeah.
yeah, these figures surrounding them not being able to perceive anything, like
I
weird
mean,
substances being put into them, like,
yeah, let it roll around
so
your head. That's gonna be
yeah,
terrifying. Like all of a sudden, it's just like I was sitting there and this really beautiful woman talking to me and telling me how great she thinks I am, and then the wall started to melt, and then I saw these lights around me, and they kept on telling me like this will only end unless you tell us your secrets. It's like, oh boy, could you
yeah,
imagine? I mean, come on. So
yeah.
then it was one of those things that we also had tons of deaths, tons of deaths here. They went and they were taking heroin addicts and they were bribing them into taking LSD with offers of more heroin. The number of people that died from this is is truly one of those things that we don't have an exact detail on, but it really is, it's out of this world. But
Yeah.
this is just part of what we're talking about. So, hmm, let's talk a little bit about Sydney. How the hell does this happen? So, the Office of Security used LSD interrogations, but Sidney Gottlieb, the director of the program, the chemist who directed MK Ultra, he was he thought otherwise. He thought that he had the key for perfect covert operations. Since its effects were temporary, he believed they could be given to high officials, and this way, after the course of important meetings, speeches, etc., that that they could affect it, that he could completely devastate the enemy by making them seem insane or being able to control what they said to their higher ups. Since he realized there was a difference in testing the drug in a laboratory and using it in clandestine operations, he initiated a series of experiments where LSD was given to people in normal settings without warning. So, everyone in technical services tried it. A typical experiment involved two people in a room where they observed each other for hours and took notes. As the experiment continued, a point was reached where outsiders were drugged with no explanation whatsoever, and surprise acid trips became something of an occupational hazard while working in the CIA.
Oh
Adverse
God.
reactions often often occurred. Imagine for a second if that horrible idea of going to a party and being drugged by someone that you don't know.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're dancing, you're listening to the music, and then you see your partner slowly transforming into the Keebler elf. That's pretty much what was happening to these folks. They were going to work, they were taking a sip of coffee, and then they were watching Adolf Hitler breakdance in front of them because they were drugged with LSD. So
Uh,
that's the thing. So with all that being said, what's the worst that could happen, right? Yeah. One of these cases was a gentleman who received the drug in his morning coffee, became psychotic, ran across Washington, seeing a monster in every car that passed him. And then, incidents like that would reaffirm that LSD is a dangerous weapon, but they only made them more enthusiastic. Meaning, whenever they saw this happen, excellent. This controlled ex military individual, this person who we know can hold on, just ran across Washington like a lunatic. Good, because that means
yeah.
that the layman is in trouble.
Yeah. But this guy was already suffering from like PTSD. So he was already weak to
That is correct. His
he was already
PTSD.
susceptible.
Yes,
He was
sir.
already susceptible to becoming psychotic. Like so, but yeah, they didn't know that yet at that point. Like
It's it's
they also
wild.
didn't care.
Of
But
course. And then I was gonna go and say, and of course, this is what happens when you have scientists that don't take an ethics class, which is so important of why in college you take your ethics class. As someone who is a biologist, graduated and everything, ethics and science have to go hand in hand because if not, things like this happen.
yeah,
Because we even have the case of Dr. Frank Olson, an army scientist who had not taken LSD before, went into a deep depression after a surprise trip, and later fell from a 13-story window.
of course.
Some subjects' participation was consensual, believe it or not, and in these cases they appeared to be singled out for more extreme experiments. 7 volunteers were given LSD for 77 consecutive days. I, anyways,
Imagine being on a trip for that long. I think your
God,
brain would melt. I think
you would never be normal after that. 77
no.
days? There is nothing. Your life as you know it is over. Whatever
Yeah,
happens after that is the new you. I can't even imagine. I
yeah.
can't even imagine. So, there really are some people who actually had this happen. And here are some documented subjects for you. Because I want to share it because it's wild. American poet Allen Ginsberg first took LSD in an experiment on Stanford University's campus where he could listen to records of his choice. He chose a Gertrude Stein reading, a Tibetan Mandela, and Richard Wagner. He said the experience resulted in a slight paranoia that hung on all my acid experiences through the mid 1960s until I learned from meditation how to dispense that. He became an outspoken advocate for psychedelics in the 1960s, and after hearing suspicions that the experiment was funded by the CIA, he wrote, Am I, Allen Ginsberg, the product of one of the CIA's lamentable, ill advised, or triumphantly successful experiments in mind control? Another subject, Ken Kesey, author of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, is said to have volunteered for MK Ultra experiments involving LSD and other psychedelic drugs at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Menlo Park, while he was a student at a nearby Stanford University. Kesey's experience while under the influence of LSD inspired him to promote the drug outside of the context of the MK Ultra experiments, which influenced the early development of hippie culture. So, and this really is the funniest thing. They wanted to stop the communists so bad, they brought on the flower power. The use of psychedelics was literally founded by the CIA in an attempt to wipe the minds clear of unsuspecting subjects that would later on lead to a cultural revolution, not only against the Vietnam War, but against the established racism that was in the actual foundation of the government. So, in total, was MK Ultra a success? No.
No.
It was a dramatic failure. But thankfully, because of it, we were able to have a renaissance in America. But with that being said, another subject, Robert Hunter, an American lyricist, singer, songwriter, translator, and poet, best known as his association with Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead. Along with Ken Casey, Hunter was said to be an early volunteer of MK Ultra, test subject at Stanford University. Stanford test subjects were paid to take LSD, cyclopin, and mescaline, then report on their experiences. The experiences were formative for Mr. Hunter. He wrote, "Sit back and picture yourself swooping up a shell of purple where foam crests of crystal drops. Soft night, they fall into the sea of morning, creep very softly into mess, and then, short of cascade, tinkly bell-like. Must I take you by the hand ever to slowly type, and then conglomerate suddenly into a peal of silver, vibrant, uncomprehending, blood-singingly, joyously resounding bells. By my fate is this, if this be insanity, then for the love of God, permit me to remain insane." Seem to enjoy his trip.
Yeah. That's also one of his most famous works now.
Is that wild? It's just like it's so wild to me. Hmm.
One of his most famous works is based on MK Ultra.
And it's one of those things that, God, how would you feel? You know what I mean? Like if all of a sudden you were just there, like, well, we're gonna go and make sure that our government stays strong, and we prepare, and we fight against this movement, and you wind up creating it because you brought in trippy drugs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there are
Like
other, yeah. No, what's anyone?
there yeah, there's other terrible things they did, and it's good that they ended up like pushing the LSD and drugs the most. Like that they ended up pushing that one the most.
It's one of those things that you have to laugh because I and forgive me, I guess I'm trying to find some levity in all of it, yeah?
Yeah.
And the fact of there truly is some it's almost a little bit funny of how you can you're like these bad guys, You're trying to do like this super villain stuff and you fail so miserably. And it's so great. I think it's so great. But
Yeah.
then there's other alleged subjects. Boston mobster James Whitey Bulger allegedly had been subjugated to weekly injections of LSD and testing while in prison in Atlanta in 1957. Hmm. This has neither been confirmed nor denied. Whitey Bulger was very much a liar, but he was also an FBI informant for a very, very long time. So that's one of those things. We also have Lawrence Teeter, who was the attorney of Shirhan Shirhan, who was the convicted murder of who was convicted of murdering Robert F. Kennedy and believed that Shirhan was operating under MK Ultra mind control techniques. So supposedly Shirhan was an MK Ultra assassin. Not saying, and by the way, before I go on, I made this statement. Jack Boyle and myself very much like being alive. Not only do we like being alive, we don't like to go and look through windows that are 13 stories up or go swimming on our own and drown out of some type of weird casualty. because
Yes.
for what it's
Okay.
worth,
Yeah.
just to go let you
Mm,
all know, we're actually pretty good swimmers. So if that was to go happen, please question. And we also don't do any type of hardcore drugs. So also just going to share that with any of you, just in case if one of us dies of an overdose. But
yes.
as files have started to go and show, the CIA was very interested in getting rid of the Kennedys in more ways than one. So if we were ever to go and sit down and go and talk about all that, there's quite a bit of things that happened there. There is also rumor and legend that the assassin that killed Dr. King was also supposedly part of the MK Ultra project. How much truth there is to that, but again, but one of the most famous subjects of this is Ted Kaczynski, American domestic terrorist known as the Unabomber, was said to be subject of a voluntary psychological study, alleged by some sources to have been part of MK Ultra. As a sophomore at Harvard, Kaczynski participated in a study described by author Alston Chase as purposely brutalizing psychological experimentation to destroy and recreate the mind, led by Harvard psychologist Henry Murray. In, in total, Kaczynski would spend 200 hours as part of the study. It is terrifying to think that the possibility of something like this is real, but it is. There are, we live in an era where people have begun to state to not trust. Don't trust this, don't trust that. Fake news, blah, blah, blah. What I will say to you is this: when we talk about sources, when we talk about finding truth, make sure before you go and jump up that hill to die on it that you are actively looking, that there is truly scientific peer reviewed journals that you're looking at, not just random nonsense that people are putting up, because you'd be shocked at some of the stuff that gets published, and not just on the internet, because you will go and see that there's this weird effect of one place will source a website, then that website will be sourced by another website, and then it'll be continue to be sourced and sourced and sourced, and all of a sudden that one place becomes fact, and that fact was wrong from the get-go. So taking a second to really go and look through your sources is hard, and it's one of the things that we try to go and do here at Something Wicked, because I refuse to come here to go and tell you nonsense. And so it's one of those things that it's hard to kind of pinpoint what's real and what isn't, or what is fantastic and what is just exaggerated. Because, well,
You also, sorry.
what was that?
You also need to make very sure that you read different sources. Like even if it's a source you do not agree
Agree
with,
with. There you go.
you should read it because like you should never read the source only from one perspective.
You can't put yourself in an echo chamber,
Exactly.
because if the only voices that you're hearing are your own, are you really learning anything? And that's hard. It's hard because, you know, me, frankly, I, and again, this is my political views. This is not political views of Chacoboyo or of the channel. I was a very big supporter, and still am, of Bernie Sanders. When Bernie Sanders' campaign came to the state that I live in, I volunteered to be able to go and fight, to go and have people go and find out who he was and the message that he was bringing. I am a firm believer that no one should have to go and mortgage their home to be able to go and pay for cancer treatments for someone that they love. Now, does that mean that I'm a fan of the Democratic Party? That is incorrect. I am not. Does that mean that I'm a fan of the Republicans? No, that is incorrect. I am not. Does that mean I'm a libertarian? That is incorrect. I am not. What I will say is this: I believe in people that want to work for people. I believe that you have the right to live the life that you want to live. But I also believe that your religion has no place in my life. But you have the right to practice it. I'm not here to take that away from you. And no one should do that either. You can marry who you like, you can live with who you like, as long as it is a consenting adult. Who the hell am I to tell you otherwise? So it's one of those weird things, you know, because it's hard when we have these conversations talking about government conspiracies and secret projects to make super soldiers, because then we have people on the real far sides of the spectrum, like I said, like that lunatic Alex Jones. They're making the frogs gay. It's like, oh God, it's
Yeah.
just like,
I want to believe that even the people on the right, like, don't believe him, but I do know that there are people who believe it. So I'm like, oh no.
I will go even further as to go and say this as we start to wrap up. I do believe that a lot of people fall into subsets of thinking, not because they believe in the ideal, but because they want to be part of a group. They want to be seen as an outsider. They want to be seen as someone that's against the current, someone that is not just going to be a sheep in things and have my own opinions, and yeah, they're radical, but they're mine and no one's going to take them from me.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get that. That's the
Yeah.
reason why now in 2022 we're having to show people that the earth is not flat.
Yeah.
Do people believe that? In my heart of hearts, I don't believe that they do. Do
I
they?
there. Hmm.
I've heard.
I think that there are some, but most of them are just really mad,
Hmm.
and it's not their fault.
And that's another thing that we need to go and fall into. So, for those of you who don't know what I do, I work in HR. And as someone who works in HR, I also go and work with the infirm and with the elderly. One thing that I tell new hires when they're dealing with someone who is very sick or suffering from a developmental disability, uh, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, judge the condition, not the person. You see, Alzheimer's is a cruel sickness. It will slowly destroy a person as they are, their memories, their personality, what makes them dumb. And they may become very aggressive. Is that who they always were? No. Do they have moments of lucidity where you see them, you hear them, and you realize, my God, that's not dumb. That is the cruelty of a mental sickness. And as we end today, I want you to go and know, all of our viewers and the people that watch us, before we judge one of our compatriots as just, oh, they're just crazy. In many cases, we have a system of people who are undiagnosed and unmedicated, who in other circumstances would be so much better. Am I saying for you to forgive every nonsense, cruel thing that comes out their mouth? No, because people still need to be held accountable for the things that they do. A sickness does not make you guilt free of murder or torture or something else horrific. But remember the echo chamber. When you have people that are unwell, that are being told by everyone around them, you're right. They do have secret cameras in the cars. They are watching us. The 5G is getting into your mind to go and read where you're at and tell us what you're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary. The thought of it is terrifying. But what I will say is this: we here in Something Wicked are open to dialogue. As a matter of fact, this is me extending an invitation to anyone that is watching. If you would ever like to come onto the channel to discuss your political views, to discuss what you think of the world, we would like to hear it. We want to hear your point of view. We want to see where you're at, because this isn't just a place for me to go and talk about cryptids and Bigfoot and government conspiracies. This is also a place where we want to be able to open up the pathway to you to go and say, you know what? Those two dudes on there, they're all right. Maybe I could go on there one day and just go and talk. Because you can. Now, for what it is, I'm going to tell you right now. If you come in here, come in heavy. Because if you come in there with some stuff, I'm going to hit you with some facts. And it's all right. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of back and forth, baby. We're for it. We want that. And I
Yeah,
think
it's never malicious. We're not here to argue, but
th-
more
that's what
to
I'm
discuss.
that's what I'm talking. And Jacob Boy, you hit it right on the head. We're not here to prove you wrong. We're here to talk about the truth. And fact is, him, Jacob Boy, or myself could be wrong on something. And if one of the viewers sees that and you're able to go and prove it, well, guess what? We were wrong. Plain and simple. That's how it works. Open dialogue. We want your open dialogue. So please, if there's ever a subject that you would like to go and talk about, or maybe there's just one day that we just want to go and sit down and talk about the current environment here in our government, please feel free. If you happen to go and work for a government agency and you want to get on here and go and talk to us about how, hey guys, I didn't really appreciate what you said about certain things in the MK Ultra episode, say it. Hit us up. I want to hear you. I want to hear you. I want to talk to you. I want to interview you. I want to hear your opinion, because how else are we going to make a program worth watching if we don't have people worth listening to? So, keeping it in mind as we continue and this thing grows into a little side project of love, that Jacoboyo has been so kind as to go and join me in to do all this weirdness. And Troy, if you're out there, we say hi. It's been a minute since we've seen you too, but we wish you the
I
best. But for all of you who have watched, thank you so much for taking a moment today to go and watch our completed stream that didn't explode because of technical difficulties. It looks as though we finally found out everything that was going on, and it's just good to go and be back. We look forward to seeing you again, hopefully very, 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 very soon. And before we go, let us take a sip of something sweet. We sing, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing. And as always, let us prick our thumbs for something wicked this way comes. Thank you so much. Have a lovely weekend, and we will see you again very soon. Take care, and bye bye.